Hey everyone, welcome to GeoPods. Now, in today's special edition, I'm joined by a friend and colleague of mine, Alex. Now, Alex is a director and chairperson at BRICS YEA. Alex, how are you? What's been up with you?
I'm great. Thank you very much for inviting. And it's been great so far. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm amazing. Just to give a brief context, Geostrata and BRICS YEA will be working together for the upcoming Youth Energy Summit in South Africa. Right. So, Alex, I have a couple of questions for you, and I would want you to elaborate upon them as much as you can. Right. So, what I really want to ask you is, what is the role that BRICS YEA does, or what is the role that it plays? And I ask you this question in the context, right? Because when it comes to diplomacy, it is kind of thought that youth is somehow out of it, right? Diplomacy is not thought of as an arena where youth is involved actively in terms of on ground, right? And added on to that, energy transition or energy or climate change is one of the arenas where it is usually thought of as it's the corporations that work over there, right? Or it is the governments, right? Hardly it is thought of as people from the, normal people, right? Or youth in general. So what is it that, where you are involved, and how would you introduce the work that BRICS YEA does?
Yes, actually, I have a lot to say. BRICS YA has been a real instrument, a real platform for young people to get engaged in the topics of energy transition throughout the years. And practically, BRICS YA was how young people from BRICS countries built their agenda within the whole group, since it has gone through different steps as an organization. I've been to BRICS YA since its inception in 2015. So I was there when it was nothing but a line in a declaration of the first BRICS YEA Summit, and been there when it was approved by the BRICS Ministers of Energy. And the major success happened in 2020 when it got approval by the heads of state. Uh, BRICS YA was actually playing a crucial role in bringing the youth voices to the tables of ministers, different decision makers, and has been a platform for young people to discuss and also kind of outline what energy transition and other energy related topics, including climate, food system, circular economy, or anything else, is associated with what is supposed to be the future of energy. And as for now, BRICS YA is so-called informal youth-led global organization that is focusing on the global south and the youth energy cooperation. Since BRICS YA has been united BRICS countries as those of largest developing economies and playing crucial role in the global south, it's kind of been expanding a lot to the countries that are associating themselves with the global south, and also kind of willing to engage with the BRICS community. And therefore, BRICS YA today is one of the key organizations on youth energy cooperation, youth energy related issues. And this year we have an amazing platform, which is the fifth BRICS Youth Energy Summit taking place in South Africa, to definitely discuss what energy transition and energy access is for Africa.
Yes. One other thing that I would add on to that is, as you mentioned about, right, the role that BRICS YA plays, bringing up the youth perspective is also something that, Geostrata is, that forms one of our core mottos, right? So I guess that's where, like, both of our aims align and everything, right?
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
yes. Now, that we've talked about BRICS YA, right? Where do you see, BRICS, like what role do you see BRICS playing when it comes to multilateral diplomacy, right? Now, where do you see BRICS fitting into that larger framework?
Well, actually talking about BRICS YEA as like a tool for youth diplomacy, well, I'd say that is a crucial actor. So you may always refer to different individuals who are like individual activists who are impacting on policy making through their demonstrations or participating in strikes, whatever it can be. Well, BRICS YEA stands for let's say, a systematic approach to what is called a youth-led diplomacy. So we kind of create a mechanism all between young people, businesses, and governments, along with the so-called BRICS Secretariat, which is rotating year by year from one country to another. For example, this year it's South Africa, next year is going to be Russia. And we're kind of making it a very promising tool that is kind of talking equally to young people, businesses, and governments. We have special tools. One of the key tools is the BRICS Youth Energy Outlook. So this is kind of a document that is being developed by young people, mostly young researchers from BRICS universities. Last edition was developed by more than 40 teams from 42 universities, and it's an amazing number. And by doing so, young people supply and provide their expertise to the outlook that is then is being considered by the ministers of energy, and also some of the takeaways are being put to the tables of the heads of state. So this is how we do it, and it's very consensual and comprehensive in terms of its influence over how energy cooperation between BRICS countries is developing. This document is a part of the BRICS roadmap up to 2025 on energy cooperation. And some parts of this document are being included in international strategies, and also strategies of the relevant departments, ministries in BRICS countries, in the way how they work with young energy professionals and what young energy professionals want. So in line with this, we have a number of projects associated with the United Nations, and this process helps us to include young people from BRICS countries into the United Nations lineup of events. For example, ECOSOC Youth Forum that took place a few weeks ago was just an example how we are doing our engagement. And this all helps us to amplify the BRICS Youth Division, not only on national fora, but also on global fora through different international organizations where BRICS countries are member states. So practically saying, this is how BRICS YEA works as a youth-led diplomacy tool. And in comparison to different other organizations, this is a very efficient tool that engages with all stakeholders along the way of policymaking, including businesses and governments. That's it.
All right, that was quite a discussion, right? Now, if I were to just add on to that, right, I see BRICS, I see BRICS as a connecting link between, I really don't want to divide the binary as in global north and global south, but surely we need organizations, or we need forums wherein, in my opinion, both can integrate and work together, right? So I see BRICS playing that role of connection between the two, if we're to consider that there are two, right? So that is something. Also, one other thing is, I find that BRICS has a much larger potential for the expression of the interests of the global south, right? Given the natural the natural equations that are there between, or the natural conditions that are there between all the partner countries. Now, after coming on to that, I really want to ask you about this thing is, given that you've been involved into the youth diplomacy or youth energy diplomacy space for so long, I have this question for you as in, all right, I'll bring it in two ways, right? Where do you think is energy transition heading towards, right? Because I'd say after the Paris Agreement, right? After the Paris Agreement, all of us realized that the time for thinking about energy transition is maybe over, and now is the time to act, right? And that is where BRICS YEA is playing a part, right? So we have to act, and we have to act now. That is where the emphasis. So I have two questions for you. Where do you think energy transition is leading, right? Given that you've been involved, so I want to ask about your views on that. Another thing is, now given that we have a summit, the Youth Energy Summit, which is coming up in Africa, right? Now it's being held in the South African presidency, but the focus is on whole of Africa. So first, where do you think energy transition is heading towards? And the second thing is, where do you think Africa fits in that picture, right? So what will you say on that?
Thank you. I guess I will answer even three questions because you have addressed in your discussion this bridge that BRICS YA is playing in between the global south and the global north. Some people say that BRICS is only for let's say BRICS countries and let's say addressing the issues that are crucial for the global south. Well, BRICS YA has longstanding partnerships with organizations that are pretty pro-North, and we are kind of building this kind of engagement because otherwise we cannot build this, let's say, globalized vision of young people because we are all participating in the same discussions representing almost same visions. Well, but young people are very globalized, I'd say. And it's very important that youth organizations are, let's say, play this connecting role that we all can build a, let's say, unique and diverse vision for the energy transition at global fora. Otherwise, the achievements will not last long. With regards to the energy transition, well, energy transition and energy access, actually energy development has been a crucial part of our agenda throughout the years, and we've been constantly doing a research what young people think about energy transition. Well, I'd say that very, very interesting results we got from the Outlook 2022 when we asked young people, would you stand for urgent climate action or you'd stand rather for just energy transition? And the answer was that it was still closer to the urgent climate action. Well, energy agenda has been largely climatized, if you know what I mean. And when you look at the both, you kind of trying to understand whether you'd stand for, let's say, sustainable and constant access to electricity, to energy, or you'd better just put it aside and ban fossils and invest in renewables and wait electricity for the next 10 years. So, and when you look at different regions across the world, the questions is very different. Well, you have also asked me about Africa, and for Africa in particular, Africa stands for just energy transition, and this is no doubt. So the continent is using its potential, it's increasing its capacity, and the continent's preparing new professionals, taking into account the experience that's been already not new in the north. And Africa is on the way to actually use the whole of its potential, including its fossils, including its renewable potential, but to address the well-being of the people who live on the continent. And this is something that is very different. And this is the approach that we are looking at when we are working on the agenda of the summit, so that we can make use of all this potential and to deliver it to the young people together with experts who will explain that Africa has it all to drive the energy transition forward. However, Africa has its own unique way compared to other continents where partly it has already been taking place. So generally speaking, energy transition from the youth standpoint is very diverse. And as you can see, there are so many youth fora taking place across the world. Some of those are very, very relevant to what I was referring to on this, a balance between urgent climate action and just energy transition. Well, this time, since the summit is taking place in Africa, we are trying to be in between, addressing the needs of people, young people who are living in South Africa, who are on their future pathway to contribute to the energy development of the African continent.
All right. You know what? I would really like to add onto the thing that you've told us about is how I perceive Africa playing a role is with we all know how large of a continent Africa is, right? So it has probably one of the largest continuous coastlines, is what I would say, right? Or there is so much of solar capacity that can be utilized in Africa, right? So I really think that if Africa can not only lead the energy transition in its own way, but it can also sort of help the wider world in developing a model, right? Which, if implemented successfully in Africa, could be modeled into all sorts of areas. So that is where I think Africa can also add up to the energy transition. Now, having talked about energy transition in general, we have a summit coming up in South Africa, right? Which is the Youth Energy Summit under South African presidency, right? Could you, and where again, both the Geostrata and BRICS YEA will be working together, and we're very excited for that, right? So could you tell or could you elaborate about the upcoming summit? What is the summit about, and what is the role that it will be playing? Yeah, so over to you.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, the summit is our prime event annually, and this year it's the anniversary summit. So it's the fifth BRICS Youth Energy Summit that is taking place in Johannesburg from the 2nd till the 5th of August. And we are very looking forward to this. The summit is being organized by the South African BRICS presidency, which is chairship 2023. The coordinating organization on South African part is the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And this major event is being hosted in partnership with BRICS YEA. Talking about the context, Africa is at the crossroads of this phenomenon, which is energy access. And most of people understand on the energy access, mostly access to technologies that enable access to electricity, to building up plants, to installing solar panels, or to educating the next generation of nuclear professionals, and so on. So it's very important to understand what energy access is. And in our summit, we are building the program in a way that increases understanding and expands the limits for energy access, because energy access is not only about, let's say, providing electricity right to the houses. It's about creating a whole system of developing skills, providing workplaces, or introducing the country to new technologies. In first place, South Africa, but I wouldn't say in the second, no, in first place too, for the whole African continent, because we are inviting people from other African countries, and we are searching for solutions that BRICS countries have there to offer to Africa on its pathway to increasing energy access. At the summit, we are going to address such topics as food systems, because food system is incredibly important and also very tightly associated with energy access. Can you imagine that South Africa these days is facing shortages in electricity, so refrigerators get switched off every single time where there is no electricity, and food inside this refrigerators gets spoiled. And can you imagine that every time it gets spoiled, then it leads to people being sick? And this is where energy access and where food system is very tightly linked. And this is the same for critical minerals or circular economy, because you cannot imagine the future of energy without it being circular. So we're kind of addressing these topics, and we are going to have a 2-day summit. Currently, we are discussing a technical site visit to one of the infrastructure facilities that the DMRE has its in disposal. And of course, we're going to present the BRICS Youth Energy Outlook on energy access. And we are starting our campaign this week already. So it's quite a very intensive event, and we would like to invite everybody. Currently, we are looking at a hybrid summit. So there's going to be an opportunity for young delegates to participate offline with their costs covered, along with offline participation. We are expecting that our partners from the BRICS countries will be sending out delegations, and we will arrange the delegations accordingly. However, we'll be also doing our own selection across the community. So we are very enthusiastic, and I would like everyone to join us at this very special event for us and celebrate the youth-led action on energy topic. And as we knew, the South African presidency, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, is very much committed and very much enthusiastic about hosting the summit too in South Africa. So this is generally it, how I see the summit. Looking forward to see our community members there.
Okay. The thought of South Africa, where you mentioned, right, that there was some sort of energy deficiency in South Africa, right? And the second or the third order implication that it leads to, well, just the thought of there being deficiency in South Africa, if there is a possibility for that, then surely the possibility for energy deficiencies in other countries or in other continents can also be there, right? And how I see energy deficiency is in the sense of it's a connected paradigm, right? For example, if there is a place where there is deficiency, right? So you need, how would I say, you need countries, continents, or areas where there is more energy than that is required, right? And I guess that is where all our fate, right? Be it the BRICS partner countries or the countries apart from the BRICS countries, right? All our fate are included, because if there is energy deficiency in one place, you need to be having it in surplus in other places, right? That is one other thing. Now, also about the summit that you mentioned and the technical visit that you mentioned, right? Now we are also eagerly looking forward to that, right? So I guess with that, we would like to sum up what this podcast, which is going to be the first in a series of podcasts that we'll be holding with you, Alex, with holding with BRICS YEA. And I hope that apart from also the summit and everything, we will also be looking forward to be recording more such podcasts, right? Wherein we just come and discuss about our ideas, what are the respective organizations up to, and where all we're leading forward to in terms of youth diplomacy, right? So I guess that's how I would like to conclude our first podcast. And it was really fun talking to you. And I guess, again, we'll be seeing you soon, right? So thank you so much for joining in and letting us know about your views, about what your expertise is. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Have a good day.